Have you ever stumbled upon a place by accident and ended up completely falling in love with it? Well, that's exactly what happened to us when we stopped in a quiet, hilly region on our way through southern France. What we thought would be just a quick overnight stay turned into a week of beautiful hikes, wild camping amidst pines and olive trees, and some of our favourite adventures we've had living on the road. We explored rugged trails with wild herbs, discovered hidden mountain caves, and woke up surrounded by beautiful scenery every morning. It was one of those places that stay with you long after you leave. These are the Alpilles. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jessica, and I live in my wooden campervan Bilbo with my partner Rissy and our adopted puppy Heidi. A year ago, we spent all our savings on a second-hand van, converted it using natural and reclaimed materials, and left our old lives behind for a more simple lifestyle off-grid in nature. Since then, we've been traveling around Europe in the slow lane to reconnect with nature and grow roots in the wild. When we arrived in the Alpilles, we found a little hiking car park that we made our home for the next few days. This morning I'm cooking up a healthy fry-up with fresh tomatoes, scrambled turmeric tofu and beans to fuel one of the 4 hikes we have planned for this week. The Alpilles are a small mountain range in Provence, which was formed when the Pyrenees and Alps rose up millions of years ago, creating an iconic stretch of jagged limestone peaks and dry valleys. This is an area that's not very well known internationally, but with it being only a couple of hours away from the Alps and a lot warmer and sunnier, it's the perfect destination for winter hiking and also really rich in culture and history. Our style of travel is probably much slower than most people's. Wherever we go, we tend to find a spot where we won't disturb anyone and stay there until we have completely soaked up the landscape, done all the hikes we wanted to do, or until we run out of food or water. Usually we alternate weeks of being very stationary and taking things very slow, with more active weeks like this one, where we're doing lots of hiking and exploring. So if you watched our previous videos, you may remember that our original plan was to go to Greece for the winter, but that didn't really work out.
No, it did not. This might look like Greece, but this is not Greece.
No, it is Mediterranean though, but we are indeed in the south of France. So basically our heating broke while we were in the Dolomites and it was -7 degrees, so we travelled down to the south of Italy while we were figuring out how to fix our heating. And then eventually we drove up to France again because the guy who installed our heater was there and he installed a new heater, but now unfortunately it's still acting up.
It's probably working at least most of the time, but we don't have confidence in it.
No, we're a bit anxious about going all the way to Greece and then something not working again. And to be honest, the whole heater story has also broken the bank a little bit because we're on quite a tight budget. So yeah, we decided to go to Spain instead. So we're very slowly making our way there. We're in no rush. It's quite lovely here in the south of France. So we're kind of just exploring this area.
Yeah, we've just kind of stumbled upon a nice national park and we were only planning to stay here the night and we thought, let's stay here for longer.
It's really lovely here. It's sunny and 15 degrees. So I think the highest mountain is like 500 meters. But it means that it's quite doable. All the hikes are fairly easy. So we're planning to stay here for like a week and do a few hikes and bring you along. The Pas de la Figuiére trail begins in a very unassuming parking lot surrounded by vineyards. And as you ascend the trail, the air fills with the scent of wild thyme, rosemary and pine trees. The Alpilles are actually quite small, being only 10 kilometers wide and 30 kilometers long, but they are a treasure trove of hiking trails and you could easily spend a couple of months here to explore all the beautiful trails. This area is home to some incredible ecosystems, from grasslands, forests to cliffs and marshes. About 250 bird species live in the area, including eagles, vultures and owls, which we heard a little bit during the night, alongside almost 1,000 different plant species. It's a nature lover's dream. The trail gently meanders through forested areas with dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. And as we climbed higher, the scenery started to change, and the forest opened up into rocky ridges with beautiful panoramas of the jagged limestone peaks of the Alpilles and valleys dotted with olive groves. This trail translates to Path of the Figs, named after the fig trees that once thrived here. But today it's mostly dense scrublands and forests with rocks that have been shaped by the elements and time, which makes the place feel beautifully remote. We really love hikes like this that have a very raw and untouched natural beauty. The kind of place where there is little evidence of humanity's presence, and you feel like you've completely escaped civilization. That over there is actually the town we're going to visit next week, right there in the distance. It looks very cool, very medieval, very cutesy, very demure, very mindful.
Ooh, someone's a bit pooped now. Someone is a bit pooped now.
So we're back at our park up and we're both feeling very lazy because that was a very long hike. I believe we did over 9 kilometers in total. So I think what I'm gonna do, because we did drive to the trailhead and back, because where we parked near the trail wasn't really great for overnight camping. It was quite near a busy road. So we drove back here, which means our battery is a bit more charged. And I'm just going to chop up some veggies and throw them in the air fryer together with some vegan nuggets that we found in the supermarket the other day. We don't get to use it all the time because it does eat up quite a bit of electricity. But on evenings like this one, I'm so glad that we have it. Good morning, friends. I woke up with a bit of a sore throat this morning and we have some stormy weather coming our way. It's starting to get a little bit cold during the night. So before we go on a hike today, I'm going to go on a little foraging walk this morning and gather some pine needles to make tea with. Pine trees grow across Europe and their needles are packed with vitamin C, which boosts the immune system and can help reduce cold symptoms, which is exactly what I'm after this morning. Drinking pine needle tea can help soothe a sore throat, and it also has a lot more health benefits such as reducing muscle soreness, improving blood circulation and calming the mind. So I believe this species of pine is called Aleppo pine, and wherever you are really, you want to make sure that you harvest long pine needles to make sure you're not accidentally harvesting a poisonous lookalike. I believe there are poisonous pines in North America, but most of the ones in Europe are edible. There is an abundance of rosemary on this path as well, so I'm going to gather some of this as well to infuse oils with, or to just use as a spice. Fresh rosemary, oh, there's nothing better. It's so lovely. I will never take for granted the fact that pretty much everywhere we're parked up, there's a nice trail with a few plants to forage. Until last year, I used to struggle with chronic illness. I had long COVID for about 3 years, and there were many days where I could barely get up and leave the house. And moving into a van has actually played a huge part in my recovery, because even when I had a low energy day, I could just open the doors and have some fresh air and be in nature. It's also part of the reason I put my science career on pause, because it was just such high stress work, and I could tell that it really wasn't helping my recovery. In fact, it was slowing it down and making me worse. So that's the reason I live the way I live now, and why I'm considering going back to university to study herbal medicine and become a herbalist. So I used to work in environmental science, and I was specifically focusing on climate change communication and how to communicate it more effectively. So I feel like herbalism is a skill that's still very useful in a climate changed world, whilst being more suited to my needs. I kind of feel like I published a few papers. I did my bit to contribute to science, and maybe now it's time for me personally to move on to something a bit more practical. So I've kind of made peace with potentially not going back to my previous work. I'm still keeping that door open, but I'll kind of see how I feel and take things as they come. There's a bit of thyme here as well, hidden around the corner. I really have to make a good fry up with fresh rosemary and thyme. It's so good. Okay, I think this is enough. The hills look absolutely gorgeous today. Basically what you want to do is obviously remove the needles from the stem, and then you want to snip off the brown bits and put it in the pan, bring it to a boil, and then steep it for 15 minutes, and that's it. We are in a trailhead car park at the moment, so it must look quite funny to the other hikers here. Just me at this picnic bench making my pine needle tea, but kind of used to that by now.
So now we are going to the bakery to pick up some food for our hike, and we're going to go on a nice little walk, maybe a little dippy, And
Depending on how cold it is.
yeah, it might be a bit chilly, but we're keeping the option open. And then we need to sort out our water. We're out of water, so we'll go into town, we'll get some water, and while we're in town, we'll get some shopping done as well.
Rocher de Deux Trous translates to rock with two holes, and the hike to this natural arch is an adventure in itself. The trail winds through towering rocks and quiet forests, all the way up to a breathtaking mountain ridge from which you can see the most amazing rock formations. Gosh, that's steep. Steepies.
Scrambling.
So we made it up the mountain.
It's a very pretty view from up here.
Yeah, I guess you can't really call it a mountain because it's only 350 meters, but it was quite a scramble towards the end.
Yeah, I think like the rocky steepiness of it kind of makes it feel more mountainy than it really is. It's really just a big hill.
Yeah, I think also the towns and everything else is like close to sea level, so that makes the hills look a lot steeper than they actually are. Anyway, at this rate, I don't think we're going to make it to the lake where we originally wanted to go because it took me a while to get going this morning. I was out foraging for longer than intended.
That is not a wholly unfamiliar story.
Yeah, so that was my fault. And then it also took us a while to find parking in the town because there just wasn't a lot of space. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to do the rest of the hike after we've rested for a few minutes, and then we'll go to the lake maybe Monday morning because we've got some bad weather coming up.
Yeah, that'll give us a chance to sort of rest up a little bit and get a few things done.
Yeah, we're going to do a shorter walk tomorrow, and you're doing like a 30k run on Sunday. And yeah, Monday morning might be nice because it'll be quiet and it'll be nice to go for a little dip before we leave the area.
Arches have been shaped by millennia of wind and rain, and they perfectly frame the Alpilles peaks like a portal to another world. It's one of those places where you feel like you've stepped into a painting, or perhaps the fairy realm. The famous painter Vincent van Gogh spent about a year living in this area, and he created some of his most famous works during his stay, including Starry Night, which is one of Rissy's favorites. After the infamous incident with his ear, Vincent self-admitted to a local asylum to treat his bad mental health, and on this hike you can actually see the walls of that very asylum on your way back. Many of the iconic Alpilles landscapes feature in Van Gogh's paintings, such as the rugged mountains, wheat fields, and olive trees.
Rissy is making ramen. What a treat. So we had a very slow and sleepy start to the day. We had a lie-in and then we were just taking things slow. I was tidying up the van a little bit and Rissy was mending his trousers, and now we're going to go on a last hike during our time here, just a short one because we are a bit tired from the long walks we did. So we're going to do a 5-kilometer loop in a medieval town nearby, and then this afternoon the storm is going to kick in. We're going to have gusts of up to 60 miles an hour, I believe. So we're just going to cozy up in the van and be a bit more sedentary the next couple of days and rest up. And then on Monday, we're already leaving for Spain, which is very exciting. The medieval town of Baux de Provence is perched high on a rock, and its fortified castle, Château de Baux, looms over the surrounding countryside. On our walk, it was so sunny that at first Les Baux was but a hazy shadow in the distance. And as we traversed the forested hills, the landscapes were absolutely breathtaking, with the Alpilles stretching to the horizon and the valleys filled with vivid shades of green. According to local legends, a golden goat lives in a nearby valley, guarding a hidden treasure. Long ago, a prince buried his fortunes in a cave, and those who dare to seek the fortune are led deep into the caves by the golden goat. Well, that was very windy, but we made it.
Really windy. I almost got blown over once.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It was a pretty easy trail though, so like at no point did it feel unsafe or anything. We didn't bother going into town though because it was really busy.
There was so many cars.
Yeah.
We could see them because of how the hike sort of, you can see the town as you're walking around, and you can just see that there's
A long line of
just
cars.
like 60 or 70 cars. It's like being back in the US.
Yeah, it is a Sunday, so I guess people are going on the day trip out. But initially we were going to look at the town, but we didn't bother because it was just so busy. So now we're going to go to a new park hub because we've been staying at our previous park hub for almost a week and we don't want to overstay our welcome. And we found a really nice looking park hub online with a mountain view. So we're going to go there, stay there for the night and basically wait for the storm to blow over. Bloody cold today. Good morning, guys. We have weathered the storm. We were actually quite sheltered where we were parked, but the van was still shaking occasionally from the strong gusts, so that was interesting, but it's just a part of van life, and it does happen a lot less often in mainland Europe compared to the UK. So we had quite a indoorsy weekend. I was doing a bit of editing. Rissy was designing a video game, which is kind of his thing. And yeah, just had a cozy weekend, really. We do have a cold snap now, so it's kind of changed from being really pleasant and warm to being very stormy. And now we're getting negative temperatures in the night. So we're having to run the heater a lot. So I think we're gonna drive south in the next day or so to Spain, so we can use our heater less again and be a more comfortable temperature.
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and look at that lake this morning. I think Rissy wants to catch up on some work, so it's gonna be just me. I don't know if I'm gonna dip in it because it is quite cold. You can see I'm wearing my thick wool coat. But I do want to go on one last walk here because it's so lovely. And then I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to a local air and fill up on some water, empty our grey water tank and do some laundry. And then we're going to be on our way to Spain, I guess. It's 0 degrees outside today, so we are wearing lots and lots of layers. I thrifted these gloves before we left the UK for £3 and they're so warm. That was a really good find.
Lac du Peirou is one of the easier hikes in the region, a quiet reservoir nestled in a peaceful valley, surrounded by pine trees and limestone cliffs. The lake shimmers in the most gorgeous shades of green, and I heard that on a less windy day, it reflects the surrounding mountains like a perfect mirror. There's a profound stillness in this place with very few other people, and walking here feels almost a little bit timeless.
So I'm at the lake and pretty much at the start of my walk, but I just noticed a sign saying that you're not actually allowed to swim in this lake because it's not safe, which is fair enough. Mentally, I was already coming up with reasons not to dip in the ice cold water. So I don't mind really, but I did spot that there's a mountain cave further uphill. So I'm gonna go up there and investigate.
Gogh du Peirou, as the name suggests, is only a short walk up the hill from Lac du Peirou, and getting there is a bit of a scramble through some very rocky terrain, so make sure to bring good shoes. The cave itself is carved naturally into the limestone, and archaeologists have found that humans have used the cave for shelter for thousands of years.
Reminds me a bit of that mountain pass with the stairs where Gollum leads the hobbits to Shelob, the giant spider. This is very cool. Let's go up there and have a look at the view. This is where I just came from down there. I've got this weird thing with heights where I have no issue whatsoever hiking up a big mountain, but anything like drops between 3 and 15 meters absolutely freak me out. So while this climb wasn't very dangerous, there were chains to hold on to the entire way, it was still a very good confidence boost. So now I'm gonna go all the way up there and have a look at the view. And then I need to go back to the van because we do have a few chores to do today before we leave. Wow. That is an incredible view. And back down we go. Oh God, this is a lot scary on the way back down. My goodness. I made it all the way back down safely, but my fear of heights did kick in on the way down. My legs were shaking and my heart was pounding. So I took it very slowly and took a deep breath between each step and made it down with no issues. So I'm really glad I did that. it is time
For our verdict?
for a verdict. So going forward, what we want to do whenever we visit a new area, we've come up with 5 categories that we're going to use to rate the areas we visit and how good they are for van life. So, the 5 categories, I don't know them off the top of my head, so I had to write them down. So the categories are landscapes and nature, how nice the landscapes are and how intact the nature is. Affordability, which is quite big for us because we travel on a pretty tight budget, about £1,000 a month between the two of us. Safety, how safe do we feel? Obviously this would be different if I were traveling by myself, but so this will just relate to how safe we feel as a couple while camping. Park-ups, how good are the park-ups? How many are there? How clean are they? Are there bins available and all that? And that also leads to the next category, which is access to resources, which is water, bins.
Those are the 2 main things there, yeah.
Yeah, basically water and bins are the 2 main things we need access to. And also local attitude to van life. Are locals, do the locals mind us? Do they not mind us? Some local areas don't really like van life as being there because they've been pretty overrun with people in vans, which is totally fair enough. So that's also just something to think about. Okay, let the ratings begin. How do we rate the landscapes? Shall we do like a thingy and then we kind of show our number? We count down.
Yeah.
Okay, landscapes and nature. 3, 2, 1. What did you give?
8.
8. Me too! The landscapes are really nice. They're not like the most beautiful landscapes we've ever seen. They're not like our most favourite landscapes. But they're very beautiful.
Yeah, and there's agriculture, but it feels like it blends quite well into the nature as well.
So I really like having lakes and rivers, just water in general in a landscape, and there's not a lot of water, but it is very beautiful. The nature seems very intact. It's very pretty. Affordability. It was quite good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, France isn't the cheapest place, but it wasn't outlandishly expensive either. Like if you go to a cheap supermarket chain, it's still not too bad.
The local supermarkets were a bit more expensive.
Yeah, there was a small like spa kind of convenience store, and obviously you pay a premium for that. The fruit and veg, actually they sold cheap fruit and veg, but if you wanted to buy most other things it was probably like twice the price.
Yeah, but in general, like fuel was an okay price, food was an okay price, so we're gonna give it 7?
6, I was gonna
6?
go for.
Okay, 6.5.
Yeah.
Safety. I felt super safe.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about safety at all. And I guess that kind of leads on to the park-ups, because the park-ups were basically hiking car parks, which felt super chilled out. There were some other vans, and they were all like fairly public, so they were like not right by the road, but they were near a road. So yeah, it didn't feel like you were in the middle of nowhere. We had signal in most places.
Yeah.
So I would say probably a 9 on safety.
Yeah.
What do we think about the park-ups? The park-ups, most of them had bins. A lot of them had signal.
Yeah.
Although we did.
Well, I would say the signal was mixed. Like
Yeah.
a lot of them had like a few whiffs of signal, but you couldn't do much other than like send messages consistently.
Yeah, and we have a 4G router, so our signal kind of gets
Like our reception is amplified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Compared to using your phone, we do get better signal.
So park-ups, I would say an 8.
I would have got 8.
Yeah. The park-ups are pretty good.
We stayed in some of them for quite a while as well, and it seemed completely chill. No one made us feel unwelcome or anything like that.
Local attitude. What a segue. Locals were pretty nice. There was some aggressive overtaking. Because obviously, like being in a big van, we drive quite slowly. So we had a couple of incidents where people overtook us in a way that was a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, especially on like the small, wiggly, national parky kind of roads that, I mean, it's not as if they're not designed for vehicles of our size, but also probably locals get a bit frustrated because they can nip around so much quicker.
Yeah. But in general, people were super nice. They didn't mind us being there, really. So I would say
9?
9, yeah. I was going to say 9, yeah.
I was trying to keep my little finger down, but it doesn't do
Yeah. Lastly, access to resources. There were a lot of bins available. That was quite easy.
Yeah, bins were in all of the hiking car parks, which was really nice. And lo and behold, there was no litter. It's
There was
almost
no
like
litter,
when you
yeah.
provide bins, people don't litter.
Yeah.
Shook.
Yeah, we've been to some areas where we've been like, there was so much litter and absolutely no bins. Like, no wonder people end up littering, although like we obviously don't condone it, but we've had to hold on to litter to our rubbish for ages and had like a big bag of rubbish in the cab,
Yeah.
just sitting there. So yeah, bins were really good. We did find an air with water. Although it wasn't drinking water, so we did have to buy bottled water to drink, and then the water we got in the air we just used for showering and washing up and stuff, just in case.
Yeah.
We do have a water filter, but we just don't want to take any risks. The air also had grey water disposal, which is really good. We did see a couple of motorhomes that emptied their grey water tank in the middle of a hiking car park, so that's really not okay, and that's exactly the kind of thing that leads to locals not being okay with van lifers. So this is just a reminder to respect leave no trace principles. We're gonna pack them in the description, and there are apps like Park for Night that show you where grey water dumping stations are. And yeah, it was really easy to access grey water disposal in that area. So please don't be that person emptying the stinky grey water in the middle of a hiking car park, so we can all continue to enjoy those places. So what do we give this area overall? What's our overall rating? Shall we do the thing again?
It's pretty good.
Ooh, I would say
8 is what I'm trying to
8.
do. There we go, yeah.
Yeah, it was like really nice for hiking, wasn't it?
It was very pretty. It was very quiet. It was pretty chilled out. I don't know how I would have found it in the high season. Like, I don't know what the high season even is, because in the summer it must be scorching.
Yeah, we wouldn't go there in the summer, too hot. It was like 15 degrees, most of like 10 to 15 degrees. So that was pretty ideal for us. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more van life adventures, how we live more sustainably on the road, foraging, and the folklore we discover on our travels.
And make sure you click the little bell icon thing, because that way you'll get notified every time a video goes up.
We post a new video every Sunday, so keep an eye out for that. Until then, take good care, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.